Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Texas 2.5. Today we're going to talk about reheating barbecue. If you watched my 4 pork butt smoke video from a week ago, you know that I was smoking 30 pounds of pork last weekend for a party that is this weekend. So that pork has been in the freezer for 7 days, and today we're going to reheat it, keep it juicy, delicious, and serve it to 70 or so people at a party later this afternoon. Let me show you quickly and simply how we're going to do that. All right, so if you watched my 4 pork butt smoke video from a week ago, you'll remember that what I was working with was 30 pounds of pork butt, boneless, from Costco, in the form of 4 7.5 to 8 pound pork butts. I smoked them up to 160 on that top rack with all of the marinade and injection and drippings and about a quart of water added to each pan sitting underneath them. And once they hit 160, when they won't accept any more smoke, I returned them to their pans in all of that juice, covered them in foil, and finished them up to around 202, 204 till they were falling apart. I then cooled them off. I condensed the 4 pans down into 3 pans. I covered them with tin foil, pressed it down real firm against the meat. I didn't use saran wrap. I didn't use wax paper. I didn't do any other tricks. All I did was put tin foil, heavy duty, pressed it down to be as much in contact with the meat as possible to get as much air out of there. And once they were cooled off a little bit, I popped them in the freezer, knowing that a week later, today, I would need to reheat them. You might ask, why didn't you food saver bag them? Why didn't you put a layer of wax paper down under the foil or some saran wrap or try in some other way to preserve? Well, as I've told you before, when it comes to barbecue, and you'll hear me say this a lot of times on this channel, when it comes to barbecue, I am a barbecue minimalist. What that means is, you know, when it comes to spritzing or wrapping, basting, injecting, marinating, prepping the day before, I do that kind of stuff occasionally, but I only do that when I'm really in the mood or when it's been proven to me that it really helps. For example, I now wrap my pork butts when they hit 160 every time I remember to do so, because the best pork butts I've ever cooked are ones I've done that to. So now I just do it every time. But for years, I never wrapped anything. I just smoked the pork butts. They were always out in the open, hot, smoky air in the smoker till they got up to 200 ish. And I would pull them and eat them, and most of the time they'd be delicious. A few times I'd get them a little dried out in spots. You know, they'd have some hard, crusty spots on one side, whatever. But I don't do a lot of spritzing. I don't do a lot of injecting, although I did on these ones because they're for a party and I wanted to do it extra special and just see if that would work. I don't do a lot of extra stuff. I try to see what's the least I can get away with and produce delicious barbecue. And then that's what I'm going to do 80% of the time. I've never frozen them this way before, but my thought was, you know what? I'm just going to see how this does. I want to know, can I pop meat in the freezer for 1 week in a foil pan with tinfoil over the top and have it turn out okay? And you might be thinking, that's kind of risky if you're doing this for somebody else's party. Well, it's for friends and family. It's not a paid event. I'm not a caterer. I wanted to see what would happen. I want to know, can I do it this way and have it come out juicy and successful? So here's what we're working with. I'll just show you one of these real quick. These have been in the, they thawed out overnight on the counter. They've been in the fridge for a few hours this morning. And as you can see right away, whenever we open this up, I think you can see, the fat content of my drippings is very high because this is all completely congealed, caramel colored, light brown. Well, it honestly looks like bacon grease all around the edges. And as soon as I pop those on the smoker, of course, all that juicy, beautiful goodness in all these pans is going to start bubbling up and moisten all this meat. But I can tell you right now, just by touching this piece, this one's completely thawed out. It's cold to the touch from being in the fridge, but it is still, even though it's cold, which obviously makes meat tougher, it is still super moist feeling and very tender feeling. I'll just give it a taste. And it's still delicious this week. So I am not worried about these at all. I think if you're doing, a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, it's really not a big deal to just pop them in the freezer in a foil pan. It's not going to hurt them. They'll be fine. You don't need to do the food saver bag. You don't need to do the wax paper. You don't need to do the saran wrap. So my smoker's fired up. It's getting hot out there with a nice big load of lump charcoal and a couple of oak splits. So let's get these outside, get them on the smoker, and I'll tell you what I'm going to try and do for time and temp to reheat these. All right, we're out here at the smoker. Even with the firebox door cracked a few inches, in just about 20 minutes or so, was already able to get the center temperature of this cooker up to 220 while I was inside talking to y'all. So that temp's going to keep rising a little bit. That'll probably get up to 250, 275. And my plan is to have them in here for about 2 hours. And at about the 1 hour mark, I'll come out here and stir them. Make sure that they're getting warm, adjust my temps if needed. So that's how it's going to go today. All right, I wanted to show y'all two quick things before we continue on with our cook here. The first one is a convenience thing. I'll put a link to this in my Amazon store below. This rack, got this on Amazon months ago, and it's super awesome heavy duty for carrying large quantities of meat out to the smoker at once, because my kitchen is a long walk out to my smoker through the garage. And so I was able to carry all three of those pans, 30 pounds of meat. I just stacked them up, boom, 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 on top of this thing, and was able to get them all out there in one trip. A lot of guys will use these to cook on as well. I don't, because I'm lazy. I hate cleaning wire grid racks. You could use a cookie sheet, baking sheet, whatever. But we really like this. My wife uses it also as a cooling rack. That's another reason I don't use it to smoke on. So anyhow, there's a tip for you. Second thing I want to show you is the awesome apron that my wife made me for grilling and smoking. And it sort of got lost in our move here to Minnesota a year ago, and I just finally found it today and busted it out. But I ordered some patches on eBay, and she sewed them onto this apron for me. I was born and raised in Fairbanks, Alaska, and Fairbanks, Alaska is a big-time supporter of military and police. So this is just a tribute, shout out to my roots, my upbringing. And by the way, for those of you who have asked, why did I name my channel Texas 2.5? I bet if you take a close look at my logo and think about that, you might be able to figure that one out. I'll do a short video on that sometime for you. But let's see if you can figure out the riddle. Anyhow, moving down, we got Colt, S&W, Ruger, different Colt logo and inner arms. Some of my favorite gun companies, gun patches there. As you've seen in previous videos, I'm into lever action cowboy guns and revolvers and stuff like that. So anyhow, I wanted to show you those two things. We'll get back to the cook here in just a second. Hey y'all, I meant to tell you, that piece of pork I ate, that was delicious. I finished off the rest of that strand of pork, and I was chewing that while I carried those pans of pork butt out to the smoker. And even cold, even a week old, right out of the fridge, freezer, buddy, that was good. I can't even wait until that juice is reincorporated back into it. By the way, we made a couple of homemade barbecue sauces for today that I wanted to show you. I'll put the links down below. We made up a big recipe from Paul Kirk's Barbecue Sauces and Rubs cookbook. I think it's called Tried and True. I will. I don't know if I don't know if that's a copyright thing. If I can put the issue down below, the recipe down below or not. Maybe if I can find a link to it on the internet, I'll put the link there. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to just take recipes right out of people's cookbooks and put them down there, so I won't do that. But this one here, this is a thin East Carolina vinegar sauce that I got from another barbecue channel, and I will put that down below as well. And I got that one from Barlow Barbecue, who I just discovered this week and have been watching a few of their videos. Fun little channel, actually. I like it. And he did a real simple, there's lots of variations of this North Carolina vinegar sauce, but he did his variation. After I looked at a couple more, I decided to go with Barlow's because I liked it the best. For a public party, it seemed a little safer. It's not quite as hardcore hot as some of the other ones that you'll see out there. His actually has a little ketchup in it and a little brown sugar. So I'm going with that one since it's for the general public. And again, this thicker, little bit sweeter, but I still wouldn't characterize this Tried and True as a true sweet brown sauce. It's like a sweet brown sauce, but it's a little more tomatoey and a little more peppery. We're going to use that on the pork as well at today's party. So those two recipes, if I can share Paul Kirk's with you, I will. But certainly I will share the link for the Barlow Barbecue East Carolina vinegar sauce. And let me tell you right now, I love vinegar. I love vinegar sauces. And this stuff is potent. It will make you pucker. And that's what I love about vinegar. So I love this sauce. Thank you, Barlow Barbecue, for posting that recipe. All right, y'all. It's time for the 1 hour stir. I got this puppy rocking, and I haven't really worked too hard to bring it back down. So to adjust what I told you earlier, I was saying 225 on the bottom shelf, I think. I can't remember if I said 225 or 250 is what I was going to reheat these at. This baby's been at 325 for most of the first hour, which means the bottom rack has been around 300, so about 50 to 75 degrees hotter than I said. But again, I'm not real worried about it. I'm guessing the center of that pork was still frozen. There's a ton of greasy, good drippings in there, and I just don't think it's not going to be a big deal. 300 doesn't bother me at all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of these. I'm not going to do all three on camera. I don't have an extra table set up today for my camera, so I actually have my camera set up on my Lone Star little 10-inch table surface, which isn't super huge, so I'm working a little bit constrained here. It's gonna be much easier for me just to set one up on the top rack and open her up and do a little bit of stirring and pulling at the same time. Yeah, see, even at 300, I'm getting steam, a little bit of steam coming off the meat, a tiny bit in spots, but the liquid isn't even boiling yet, so not worried about it at all. Hey, check this out. After a week in the freezer and with reheated pork, listen to this crust. This one's a little softer right here, but this right here, I think this is from that spot that I thought got a little too dark. But honestly, if you're planning to freeze and reheat your pork, might be a good strategy to get the bark a little bit crunchier than you would usually prefer. Because after it freezes and thaws and softens up a little bit and then gets reheated, when I incorporate that into this, this is going to be awesome. So all I'm trying to do here is just move meat and liquid around a little bit. I'll pull this a lot better once I get to the party and I'm actually putting sandwiches together later today. So I'm not really trying to pull it right now. Honestly, all I'm trying to do is get even reheating and not puncture this foil with this giant fork that I'm using. So I'm doing most of the bottom work with my spoon here. And I'm just basically trying to turn all this over. Man, that looks and smells delicious. Unbelievable. A week in the freezer. No saran wrap, no wax paper, just tin foil pressed down as tight as I could get it on top of that meat. And you know what? Before I let you go, I hope I don't burn my face off doing this. I have no idea how hot the meat is. But I'm going to try a little piece of this. Don't know why it won't focus for me there, but anyhow, sorry about that. Smoke ring is good. Let me try this. Okay. I just got more information. It's barely warm. That is perfect. There's nothing cold. There's nothing frozen. The meat is thawed out, and that piece from the middle there was just warm, just above room temperature, which means these babies are going to be perfect, hot and steamy in another hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to throw them in an ice chest, run them up to the party, and leave them sealed up in that ice chest until it's time to make sandwiches and start handing them out. Now, two things I should say as we're doing this barbecue reheating lesson. You could obviously do this in your oven. You don't need smoke to reheat barbecue. I'm just doing it in the smoker because it's summer and I don't want to heat up my kitchen and run my AC. Super easy to throw it on the smoker and reheat it like that. I think probably the very best way to reheat barbecue is using food saver bags and a sous vide device. If you're not familiar with sous vide cooking using a hot water bath, you should definitely check out the channel Sous Vide Everything. Those guys are awesome. They make some amazing. If you love meat, they cook a lot of different things sous vide, but they do a whole lot of meat, and they really love picanha and ribeyes. They do a ton of picanha and ribeyes. Go check out Sous Vide Everything. They're funny. They make delicious food. They're way better at video editing than I am. The guys are pros at YouTube. Sous vide is a great way to reheat barbecue because it's all sealed inside of a plastic bag and the juices can't escape, can't go anywhere. But to do that for 30 pounds of pork is a huge pain. For my money, reheating in the oven or in the smoker with this foil pan method is the best. Obviously, this would work very well for brisket as well. Um, it does work for ribs. You're never going to, in my opinion, the ribs, leftover ribs are never going to be as good as they were the first time, but they'll still be a lot better if you take care of them and reheat them carefully and slowly and patiently like this than they will if you throw them in a frying pan and just try to reheat them by frying them. That doesn't work out so well. Reheating ribs quickly, usually you used a sweet rub and a sweet sauce on them, and you're going to burn all that stuff up. So reheating ribs gently like this is my preference as well, even though for my money, brisket and pulled pork are the things that are the most like they were the first time if you're going to reheat and eat for leftovers. Ribs definitely, I think, go down a step, but they're still good, still tasty. But I think brisket and pulled pork are much better for reheating. This is how I do it. If y'all have a favorite way of reheating barbecue, share it below. We'll see you back for one more quick update again at the 2 hour and 15-minute mark and show you what we got. We'll be off to the party then. Thanks for sticking around. We're just going to peek at one of these real quick because I want to preserve as much heat as possible. We just have some real slight bubbling that was going when I first opened the tin foil. So I think we're probably about 205 on that liquid. You probably saw those couple of bubbles there. But this is looking smoking hot and delicious. All right, y'all, we are at the party and we got to make this quick. Here's what it looks like. Super juicy, super tender goodness. Turned out phenomenal. Freezing does not ruin this stuff. Here's a bite. Here's some of our vinegar sauce. Oh, baby. So good. So good. And this was only 1/3 of the pork. We had 3 times as much that got eaten. We have this much left over. So we did good. It was delicious. Thanks for watching. Y'all don't like bonus footage, do you? If you think the words cowboy and ribeye go very well together in the same sentence, stay tuned for some real short, real yummy bonus coverage. See y'all next time. Did I mention that just after the 1 hour flip, I threw a 1.5 pound cowboy cut, perfectly round, beautiful ribeye steak in on the cooler grate to slowly reverse sear. In about 15 more minutes, I'm gonna throw her in the firebox, finish her off. It's gonna be good, y'all. All right, y'all, we brought her up to about 1:15. We rested her, and now it's time for a sear. I dropped my grilling grate down to the middle position, just about 6 inches above the fire grate, and about 3.5 inches above those awesome embers. We're gonna do, even though we don't have a cold grate, we're gonna try the cold grate method and flip these about every 1 minute till we get it up to 130. So I'm gonna try it a minute on each side, then temp it, and if we need one more flip, we'll do her. Here goes. Listen to this beautiful sizzle. That ribeye looked amazing. 1 minute, let's go. All right, forgot my tongs, so we're doing the manual 1 minute flip. Getting a nice sear on that baby. I'm sure as we get some grease dripping, that fire will flare up a little bit more, and we'll sear even a little bit hotter. See you after the 2nd minute. I think we'll go ahead and do a 3rd minute. It's looking amazing, beautiful. We'll sear her one more time. That should get us up in the 130 range. And if it goes a little bit over that, I'm not too worried, because I actually think the couple of honor at this anniversary party that this steak is for, I think they actually prefer it more in the medium range. So 140 wouldn't kill us. All right, folks, we are doing a 4th minute because we were about at 122 whenever I just temped her. So we're going to get her up there in the high 120s. Wrap her, she'll finish in the mid 130s, and we'll call her a day. My friends, I hope that you can appreciate this delectable goodness. That is an incredible sear on a beautiful, beautiful piece of meat. Let's temper. 140. Yep. This is ideal. High 130s, low 140s, I think, is about a perfect perfect medium. Maybe a tad on the medium rare side. And they're going to love it. Beautiful, beautiful cowboy ribeye. By the way, if you're wondering, I used Malcolm Reed's Killer Hogs AP seasoning as my base layer. I used Cosmo's cow cover as my 2nd layer. And just before I cut this and serve it in a couple hours, it's going to sit in the cooler with the pork and stay hot. Just before I cut this and serve it in a couple hours, I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit of Montreal steak. Give it a nice crunch. We'll be good to go. Hope y'all enjoyed reheating barbecue tips and some bonus cowboy ribeye coverage. We'll see you next time. This is Jonathan with Texas 2.5. See you later.